Something huge is happening all across India. And you know where it's starting? In a place most of us visit pretty regularly, the shopping mall. It's this massive shift that's changing not just what we buy, but how we buy it, and even why we go shopping in the first place. So let's dive into India's great retail upgrade.
So think about it for a second. Have you noticed your local mall feels different? Maybe that old food court is now a bunch of fancy restaurants. Or that bargain store you used to love has been replaced by some slick international brand. Well, that's not just a coincidence. It's all part of a huge economic shift that actually has a name. You see, malls aren't just for buying things anymore. They're becoming what you might call experience hubs. The whole point is shifting away from just a simple transaction. Now it's all about creating an atmosphere, a place where you go to spend time, not just your money. And this whole thing is being driven by one single, very powerful trend.
And that trend is called premiumization. It sounds a little jargony, but it's actually pretty simple. It's the big switch consumers are making, away from just looking for the cheapest price and toward wanting better quality, cool experiences, and brands that they really aspire to. Honestly, this one idea is the key to understanding almost everything that's changing in Indian retail right now. So, what's actually driving this whole thing? Well, it really boils down to two huge connected forces. You can think of them as the twin engines powering this whole retail upgrade: India's super young population and its exploding wealth. Let's start with this number, 29.8. That's it. So what is it? That's the median age in India. Just let that sink in for a moment. Half the entire country is younger than 30 years old. Demographically, that's an absolute game changer for any consumer market on the planet. And to put that in perspective, look at it globally. India is incredibly young compared to other big economies like the US or Japan. And this isn't just a fun fact. It means you have this massive population that grew up with the internet, they're constantly seeing global trends on social media, and they are hungry for new stuff and aspirational experiences.
Now, here's the other side of the coin. This young population is also getting way more financial power. India's economy is in what experts are calling a sweet spot, with incomes rising faster than pretty much anywhere else. So these young consumers actually have the money to chase after those aspirational tastes.
And this growth in wealth is just staggering, especially at the top. The number of super rich and sheer rich families is expected to grow by a wild 14 to 18% every year. Meanwhile, the number of destitute households is shrinking. So the main takeaway here: the pool of people with serious spending money is getting bigger, and it's getting bigger fast. So what are people spending all this new money on? Well, the data is crystal clear. Whether we're talking about electric cars, luxury travel, or even fancy bottled water, the growth rate for spending in India is just blowing past the global average. This right here is premiumization in action. Of course, the country's biggest retailers aren't just sitting back and watching this happen. Nope, they are actively changing their entire game plan to win over this new aspirational customer. Let's take a look at exactly how they're doing it. They're all kind of following the same playbook. First, they're buying up premium brands, they're giving their stores a facelift to feel more luxurious, and they're not just staying in the big cities, they're expanding into smaller towns where people want this stuff too. And this last one is crucial: they're blending their physical and digital stores, what everyone's calling phygital, so you can browse online, try something on in the store, and get it delivered, all in one smooth experience. But does this strategy actually work? Oh, you bet it does. Just look at Shoppers Stop. They decided to focus more on premium brands. And bam! The money they made from those brands jumped from 55% to 64% of their total revenue in just a couple of years. That's a massive shift, and it proves this strategy pays off. Aditya Birla Fashion is another perfect example. They're literally changing their physical footprint. They're moving away from having tons of small stores and instead focusing on bigger, more impressive flagship locations in major cities. It's a clear pivot from quantity to quality. And this isn't just one or two companies. It's an entire industry movement. You've got giants like Reliance and Tata Trent, who are aggressively bringing in new international luxury brands, and at the same time, they're creating their own premium labels. They're trying to capture this demand from every possible angle. So all these retailers are going up market. That's having a huge knock-on effect on the places they set up shop. As the brands change, the traditional shopping mall has no choice but to change right along with them. This has led to the rise of what are called superior or grade A malls. Now, these are not your average run-of-the-mill shopping centers. These are the top-tier places usually owned by one company, which means they are perfectly managed and maintained. They create that high-end environment that these premium brands are looking for. And how valuable are these spots? Well, the price tells the whole story. Rents in these superior malls have shot up by 29% in just 5 years. I mean, that kind of crazy growth only happens when demand is through the roof and there's not enough space to go around. All the premium brands are fighting for a spot.
The whole idea of what a mall is has completely flipped on its head. In the past, the main attraction was a big hypermarket, right? The focus was on value, getting your essentials. Now, the new main attraction is often food and drinks. Nice restaurants, cafes. The focus is on lifestyle and having a great experience.
If we rewind the clock just a little, back to before the pandemic, mall space was dominated by essentials. The big hypermarkets. Categories like food and beverage or athleisure, they were there, but they were a much smaller piece of the pie. But look at the picture today. It's a totally different story. That essentials slice is shrinking, while the share for food and beverage has more than doubled. Athleisure has grown a lot too. The physical layout of our malls is literally being redrawn to match what we want to buy and how we want to spend our time. So, all of this leads us to the million-dollar question. Where do we go from here? What's next for this great retail upgrade? Well, it looks like the next wave is going to follow 3 clear paths. First, get ready for a building boom of these high-end, superior malls. Second, this trend is going to spill out of the malls and bring life back to iconic high streets. And third, that phygital blend of online and offline, that's just going to become the standard for everybody. I think the most important thing to take away from all this is that this is not just a passing fad. The experts all agree this is a deep, structural change in the market. And what we're seeing right now, it's probably just the beginning. Which leaves us with one last, pretty fascinating question to think about. As tens of millions more people join India's consumer class over the next decade, what is premium even going to mean? The bar for quality and experience is already rising fast, and it's set to completely change the face of Indian cities for years to come.